What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, we're looking back at Destruction All-Stars, and I gotta be real, and we'll say it right away, I really like this game, and maybe a guilty pleasure kind of thing. I vividly remember getting this game, covering it. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this video, but the game is actually approaching, if you can believe this, the game is approaching 3 years old. This was one of the very first PlayStation 5 exclusive games, and I remember the history with this game and the microtransactions and switching from full price to being on PlayStation Plus and much more, plus the game itself, which I do think is actually the best part, because I think the game itself is actually good, and there were just some things that kind of stopped it, I think, from achieving greatness. Nowadays, the game is basically dead. I actually did get in plenty of matches. It took a while to load in, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that there was, like, full-on people. You know, I've talked about playing Evil Dead or some of the other, actually, when I've played, like, Battlefield, Bad Company 2, right before they shut the thing down, you'd think that's where people would play. I couldn't even get a match with more than 4 or 5 people, you know, in Bad Company 2. So it was good. I mean, this game is much newer. It's good to see it because I actually think this game kind of deserves it. So we're going to go into everything. I got quite a lot up in the old noggin that I want to go through. Firstly, I do, and I normally don't say this, but we're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy this content, we do 2 videos a week, try to pick different games from all the different generations and, you know, eras of gaming. So if you like that, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, all that jazz. Got a lot of really fun stuff coming up, games of all different ilk. So, all right, Destruction All-Stars. Now, this actually will always be a game kind of personal to me because this game came out, I believe February 2nd is its official, you know, 3-year birthday, I think at least. And my dog, my second dog, Luna, my West Highland White Terrier, we actually got her like 3 days before. So I pulled the game up and I was playing it on the TV and my wife was like, are you playing Fortnite? She legit, and I said, no, this is Destruction All-Stars. I said, do you remember that game? Because that's the game that we just got the dog. She was like 5 weeks old, maybe even younger, maybe 4 weeks. They gave her to us kind of early. And I remember like sitting on the floor and this little fluff ball is running around and, you know, we were trying to like train her and all that stuff. So the game will always hold kind of a special memory in terms of when it came out. But again, the game itself is rather good. I think what kind of stops it is, well, there's not a lot of modes. There's not a lot of modes that are fun. The player base, obviously, I just don't think was there. And again, some controversies when the game was coming out. So let's talk about a little bit of the history with this game. So Lucid Games, right? And actually some people that made this game actually worked on the Wipeout franchise. Wipeout's a great series. That's a good game series to kind of go back to on this channel eventually. Love those games. Some of them, you know, were part of this team. And they put together this game. Now, this game was originally supposed to be a launch title for the PS5. It was announced at the PS5 reveal event that June 2020, right? Which I think Miles was also there. Horizon, I believe, was there. And Destruction All-Stars. So the game was supposed to come out, you know, that fall, and it was delayed. Now, the game was supposed to be priced, and they were leading with this, $69.99. This was one of the first games that Sony had done this jump. And, you know, when you think like Ratchet and Clank, but that actually came afterwards, right? Miles Morales came out, you know, as a launch title. Astro's Playroom, you know, that came out with the PS5. And then you have this little thing that really, I mean, I don't think it justifies $70, but that's, you know, that's what they were going to, not what they actually charged, what they were going to charge. So the game got delayed, got moved to February. So still, you know, within the first 2-3 months of the PS5 being out. And they switched it. I remember covering the news like that. I remember vividly, you know, making a video. They went from $70 to it's a free PS Plus game. And ultimately, the game, you know, they ended up charging for it after it left PS Plus. And the game, I believe, was $20. So it went from 70 to free to 20. And I mean, it's just, that was kind of wild. And I do think the $70 really, even though it never actually cost that much, I think that really hurt this game. So the game comes out. And, okay, let's talk about just a few negatives with it, and I'll go over my vast positives, which again, I do think are there. The negatives, well, number one, I can't get over, like, kind of the crowd I think they were going for. There was a lot of, like, I don't know if emoting is the right phrase, but a lot of these things you would see in Fortnite, like, I don't think they do the floss, but, like, kind of, to me, as a 27-year-old, very cringe-like, you know, things, and these cast of characters and just what they're doing on screen when you hover over them, like very, I don't know, very childish to me. Now, I mean, that's what they were going for. I think this game very much felt in that way. In the cosmetics, in the look of it, did feel more like Fortnite. So they were probably, going after the 10 to 15-year-old. But what's odd is the combat itself, I think, is much more mature. Not in terms of violence or anything, but I think, like, it takes some skill. I guess Fortnite also takes a lot of skill, but I don't know. It almost felt like a kind of clashing of, like, on the outside looking in, you would say, oh, this is kind of like a new age game. It reminds you of this or that. And then when you go in, it's like, ooh, I could see them making like a Twisted Metal game. And remember, there actually were rumors when this game came out that the studio that made it, it was like a test game for them to see if they could do vehicular, that's a hard word to say, combat to then, eventually do a Twisted Metal game. Now, that never really materialized. The rumors with that, by the way, in case you're like interested, the rumors were they did start to make a Twisted Metal game after Destruction All-Stars, and then it got taken away from them because of the quality. So, maybe that's true, maybe that's false, but playing this game, you can absolutely look at it and say, yeah, if I were to pick a studio, now the themes and maturity definitely would have to change, but in terms of like the core mechanics of the game, I think they could handle, a Twisted Metal game. I hope we get a Twisted Metal game because this was kind of the appetizer for it. So I would say that, the more childish kind of nature. I mentioned the modes. I believe there were only 4 modes at launch. There was story content. It was very poor story content. And then another big controversy was the kind of microtransactions. So a lot of things were blocked, through paywall. You had to use real world money. There was no way of, kind of earning it in game. And what you got is not even like worth it. It would be like color palettes on your skin. So really a lot of the show-offy kind of things, a lot of games will default to just doing cosmetic microtransactions, right? So they're not stepping on any toes. They'll say, well, content is free, but if you want to, kind of change out what your character looks like, that stuff, you could pay for. And that only works if the cosmetic stuff is cool. And this game, number one, it's not really cool. And number two, it really doesn't matter. Like, I guess the interesting thing is you spend a lot of time in cars. So if you're decking out your person, and that is a strength of this game, is actually the different characters, but if you're decking them out, I guess I think there's cosmetics, for vehicles as well, but I don't know, just half of it seems very unnecessary because, yeah, you can go outside of a car, but you don't really want to. You kind of want to be in a vehicle at all times, so it just didn't make much sense. So, I would say microtransactions, the failed kind of price launch, it being delayed, all that jazz, lack of modes, and then I would say lack of, like, variety. The game is kind of a one-shot thing. Like, once you figure out how to do it, you've done it, and that's all there is to do. And, like, for me, fun game, like, to just throw on the TV and play. I played this game for a few hours just out of fun, obviously, for this video, but I only expected to play a few matches. I played this thing like way longer than I thought, and I didn't uninstall it. Sometimes, for this channel, I'll install the game, play it, and then, delete it. I kept it because it's like, maybe I'll want to jump back in because I think the core gameplay loop of this game is quite good. So what do you do in this game? Well, you get in cars and you bash other cars. Pretty simple. You have forward movements to like a speed boost that would then ram cars, and you have left and right. They are on a recharge. You have characters. Now, I would say the cool thing with characters, again, some of them a little bit more cringy. Seems like they're, I don't even know what they were doing with some of them. But the characters are pretty diverse in the way of, like, their moveset. So everybody gets a unique ability that the person has. Now, I don't really find most of them to be useful. And that's, again, I was mentioning earlier, it's cool to have cosmetics, and it's cool to even have, I'd say, abilities for each of these characters that are different from one another. But you're not really, like, running around all that much. You're running around to get into another vehicle to do more stuff, right? So, I would applaud it still. I would say it's a strength of the game. You just don't use the human ability. One of them is like a tiger, so I don't even know what these people are. But no, you don't really use that all that much, okay? Now, they each have like a car one, and the cars, very cool. There were some characters that I don't even remember playing back in the day, and I actually ranked every one of these characters from best to worst. I made that video on podcast now 3 years ago. It actually did really well. And so I tried them all out. I just don't remember some of them. But the cars are really cool. The specialized cars, I actually think the base cars are kind of strategic as well. But the hero-specific cars, they'll all have their own abilities. They'll all have their own kind of thing that makes a tick. Some of them are much more just bigger than others, so you can kind of ram around a little bit. Like it's really fun, and you want to obviously get those cars. And just lining up hits, like it's tough to actually talk. You may notice, like the base game is just hitting each other, and there is something inherently addicting and fun about that. Like, you're just going around, you're just trying to, knock destroy, blow up the other cars. If you see somebody, you want to KO them as well, to put it lightly. You want to ram into these humans and knock them out. And depending on the mode you're playing, you might have to build up gears, and then you send your car into the, I believe, Carnado. And then there's also, and I only played 2 different modes when I was playing it right now. You have the Carnado one, and then you have where you pretty much just get points. You're literally just trying to get as many points as possible by hitting, each other. There were a few other modes, one like Fall Guys inspired kind of thing, and I remember playing it back in the day. I, gravitated to these 2 modes, and I don't think it's any coincidence that these 2 modes are still ones that people are, playing, right? Because I think these are, the core of this game is that. The core of this game is not, I think there was another mode where you can hit people and then you can like pick up gears or something like around the world. And like I said, there's a Fall Guys one where like the map kind of falls, and like it sounds cool, but the game itself, it's at its best when you're driving around. I mentioned even the basic cars. So you start out, you run out, and then you got like 4 or 5 different vehicle types, maybe 3 or 4, maybe not 4 or 5, but you got several vehicle types. And do you want to go for the smaller one? Now, the smaller one is faster. You can maybe cut people off better. And, if you get your hits in right, it doesn't matter how big or small your car is, right? You have to be the one to hit first. And I think that's very strategic, right? If you're ramming each other head on the same time, it's whoever, like, it bases itself off of who hits that acceleration, that forward one, I guess, first, right? And I think that's actually quite cool. Now, again, some cars that are bigger, they're going to have more health. They're going to be able to withstand a little bit more. Some of the smaller ones, yeah, you can get hits in, but if you take a big hit, it might be a one-and-done thing. You might lose all of it. And for the mode where you have to deposit your cars, it's actually quite important to keep your car alive, right? So, and you want to keep your car alive, and you want to keep yourself alive to build up eventually to do your hero ability, and then also call in your car where you should be able to make a lot of headway, right? You should be able to get a lot of points. So there's some strategy there. I mean, it is as simple as just like ramming each other. I guess I would say like the maps are kind of an issue because they're all basically the same thing. I don't know if they had it originally. They had it now, but I don't remember like, well, did they add to it? There's the one map that has like swinging logs with like spikes on them. So kind of environmental things, that you have to kind of pay attention to that you're not going to drive in. They can kind of mess you up. I actually think they should have done that. Like, there's things you can hit in maps, but that specific, like, swinging log thing, I actually thought was really cool. And I don't remember, like, was that a new map, or did they add that to a map, or was that just part of the base game? I think that's actually what the game needed more of, because, eventually you just try to figure out, well, stay hidden, stay away from the pack, line up your shot, take your shots, when you have them. You have to be risky at some points, but you also have to kind of play it safe at others. And, eventually kind of get into a groove. To have environmental issues like you have to watch out for, I actually think would have helped. I think that would have made it even more strategic for those that have gotten used to it. But I'll tell you this. The first couple matches, I did terrible. I was trying to figure it out. I was really trying to line up my shots. And the thing is, those acceleration things, left, right, and going forward, and also, pressing circle to drift and to make kind of quick stops and turns, not only are you an aggressive, can you be aggressive and you kind of want to be aggressive, but you can use those things to dodge. So you can use the quick shift to the left or quick shift to the right. That doesn't have to actually be to hit a car. It could be to dodge an upcoming car towards you. And I actually think that's really, really cool. And as the matches win, I mean, there was a stretch where I think I got first place, second place, fourth place, second place. Like maybe that was the stretch I had. And that was towards the end, of my playtime. It took me a little while to get in, but once I like figured it out, I was cruising. I was giving the specialty cars. I was wrecking. I was doing really, really well. So I was quite proud of myself. And I do remember, and I mean, see, I didn't keep any of the footage, and that's a real mistake. When this game came out, I played it for like a good week straight. Like now again, like I had the new dog, so I remember like training her, just watching her, playing with her, petting her, and playing the game, for a couple hours just every night. And I got quite good. I think it's why I stand behind actually when I ranked all those characters. I put in the time. Like I definitely feel I know who are the better characters and the worst characters. So I feel good about that video, but I think I was actually really, really good back in the day. So I'm happy I picked it up and I did really well, coming back to it now. So I don't know, like the point of this video, well, the point of a lot of these videos is to look back at the game. I think this game deserved more, to be honest with you. Now, it shot itself in the foot several times, right? So it's like, well, how much did it really deserve? It's a tough thing, but like 3 years later, and I thought this when it came out, like, I get it. I mean, there's several things just even looking at it where maybe you cringe or maybe you say, oh, why are they doing that? And then even the base game, it's like, well, there's only a couple modes and you're going to charge $70 for that. And then cosmetics aren't really worth it. So microtransactions, and they've abandoned this game, right? So this game is kind of dead, which is sad. And it's why, we cover these. Evil Dead, the game. We're actually going to do a video eventually on Friday the 13th. I believe that's been delisted, but it hasn't been shut down yet. Bad Company, except we've talked about a lot of games that have either been abandoned and are still alive, but barely, or shut down entirely. Knockout City, being the Dead Space 2 multiplayer, that's become like a specialty, of this channel. But this game, this definitely does fall in the category of it has players, which I'm actually very happy about, but it's not being supported. No amount of support really could save this game. So, granted, right, it's like I guess you have that as well. So it's a game probably on its last legs, but I thought it when it came out, and I still think it now. The core of this game, the core concept of running around, and it's actually fun just to be like as your human self running around and kind of parkouring and getting into vehicles. The game is just like really fun. I don't think you can play this every day. I don't think you can play it like 4, 5, 6 hours a day and you'll come back and do it 3, 4, 5, days in the week. But I think, every so often, and it's why, again, I did not uninstall it. I think this is a game that you can kind of come back to and just have actually a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun. Get out. You're not going to play it too long, but maybe you come back another time, a few weeks later, and that's not going to save the game. That's not going to even really help the game, but I mean, it's something you can do, with the game. So I'm happy I went back to it. I think one of the community members, of the channel, I think on podcast now, mentioned this game, and I forgot about this game's existence. To be flat out honest with you, I forgot this game came out. I was deleted. I didn't think about it all. And I remember, I think in a live stream a few weeks back, somebody mentioned this game. Then I looked at, turning 3 years old. I thought, oh yeah, that's definitely a game, we'll have to try out again for this channel. But a blast, totally a blast. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.